Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello. All right. Happy Wednesday. You know, yesterday on the stream, I said, oh man, it's been a long week. And somebody in my Discord's like, it's Tuesday. But in fairness, I think for all of us, I think a week started when it all went down. It definitely feels like this week has been all about Charlie Kirk, and we are not one step closer to bringing people together. So let's talk about that today, okay? Pausing music in 1, 2, and 3. So, if you're new to my channel, we do philosophy through pop culture, and the reason I chose to engage in philosophical work versus political work is that I found that when I was in politics, it was too divided to get anything done. It felt like when you engaged in politics, it trapped you in sort of a mismatch of problems, and nobody wanted to untangle it to ever understand like what were really the issues, like what were the defining parts of this thing that I couldn't see clearly through. And I went in such good faith into the political bubble with this like really naive hope that people were serious about helping people, that people were serious about problem solving, that people were serious about caring. And I learned very quickly when I was a Republican that they were grifting. I learned very quickly when I was a Democrat that they were willing to sell it to the Republicans. And I learned very quickly that as a progressive, though we are limited, our hearts are in the right place, but we really don't know what to do. And it's okay that we don't know what to do, because I don't think it would be wise for us to pretend that we do. I think it would be very unwise for us to sit here and pretend we have the answers for 8 billion people. But I think what we can do is start with admitting we don't know, and start really bringing together some sort of, start bringing together what we do know. And something that is universal throughout every cultural bubble is this conversation about love. Love is a really interesting concept. Whether you're quoting Jesus or James Baldwin, love is really difficult. And I'm going to let James kind of carry it away, take it from here and just like introduce us to this concept of love before we tackle today's topic. But love is definitely not for the weak. It is really, really hard to be a loving person. Let's let James explain it to us here.
There may not be, as much humanity in the world as one would like to see, but there is some. There's more than one would think. In any case, if you break faith with what you know, that's a betrayal of many, 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 many people. I may know 6 people, but that's enough. Love has never been a popular movement, and no one's ever wanted really to be free. The world is held together, really it is held together, by the love and the passion of very few people. Otherwise, of course, you can despair. Walk down the street of any city, any afternoon, and look around you. What you got to remember is what you're looking at is also you. Everyone you're looking at is also you. You could be that person. You could be that monster. You could be that cop. And you're to decide in yourself not to be.
Okay. This is a belief that I deeply hold within me, that all of us have the potential to be very bad, and all of us have the potential to be very good. And we all swing between those two very specific constructs of good and bad. Okay. And it's really difficult because we live in a world that really like beats us down, and the temptation to be bad is so strong. I can't even really fault you for wanting to be bad. And I'm not going to. I'm not going to point the blame and say, you're responsible. Instead, I'm going to say, I would encourage you to take this opportunity to be responsible for being a good person and not a bad person. instead of blaming yourself for being a weak person or a person who made mistakes or a person who even made a bad choice. The idea is not to beat ourselves up. The idea is to say that we have the power to be better. You have the power to be better. Right now, on the back of Tyler Robinson and Charlie Kirk, there's also Luigi. And you guys know, and I take the stance and I continue my consistency with my values in this stance, that Luigi did a bad thing. That he should never have killed that man. That's the healthcare CEO. And I understand that everyone saw that as a moment of reprieve and justice in a world that is so unjust. But how horrible of a burden to carry for Luigi. And also, what an entitled piece of shit to think he has the right to kill somebody. Because how is that any goddamn different than that health CEO who took millions of dollars in payments at the expense of millions of people under that healthcare provider? You think it's different. You think it's different because it looks different. But at the base of it is so evil to feel so entitled to people's lives. And right now, Republicans are calling for the death penalty of Tyler Robinson. Again, violence is not the answer, y'all. You're so hungry for blood. And I'm saying this cannot be the answer. Do we really think this is the answer? So again, one of the most universal philosophical concepts that are about healing comes from love. Now, that's not to say that I'm a perfect person or you're a perfect person. It's to say we have to first admit that we're not perfect people. We cannot be considered perfect people. We can never consider ourselves perfect. One thing that comes out of Christianity is this idea that no one can be perfect but God. And yet we sit here and say we are. The same mob that killed Jesus, that's the same mob we see rising up right now against trans people, against immigrants, against women, against gay people. But they're called Christians this time around. And it's so ironic that Christians time and time again learn their own history and say, you know, the Jews killed Jesus and Jesus was a Jew. Okay, well, what are you doing right now? How is this helpful, turning yourself into a mob? How is this the answer? And I know that one of the things that I talk about here is how we all live in bubbles, yes. And we all have a perception of what we think is right? Like all of us live in these ideas, these little constructs full of ideas that we really like, we live and die. But at the same time, you can see within some of these bubbles that obviously, though people identify with a label, they don't really live out the label. And there's something about that. That I think you need to pay attention to. I think it was Angela Davis, though I could be very wrong. I think was it her who said it? Hold on. Hold on. I'll tell you right now. I think it was Angela Davis. What do I feel like that's wrong? No, it was her. Angela Davis said in an interview, she said, you know, you have to do what you preach. Like you cannot say, you know, this is for you, but not for me. You have to do what you preach. And that's really, really hard. It's actually like devastatingly hard. You know, like it's so hard that it feels so impossible that you'd rather be Tyler Robinson. One of the most disturbing parts that I think has come to light after these text messages have leaked is that Tyler Robinson stood for nothing. And if a man who stands for nothing can carry out a murder, right? Then what hope do we have if we can't even find the right kind of motivation for the killing? But that's the question about this male loneliness epidemic, the question about meaning, right? I'm so surprised that everyone is so focused on, is he liberal? Is he a Republican? Guys, it's scarier than that. He might be nothing. And now, what do we do how do you fight nothing? How do you point a finger at nothing? How do you defend yourself against nothing? Nothing. He might not be a graper. He might not even be a graper. He might just be a nothing. And I don't know how that is not more disturbing than the fact that he could have at least been fighting for something he believed in. So sure, he came out and said Charlie Kirk was a hateful man. But then what value system led him to thinking he could kill Charlie? You know, what value system made him think, okay, I am entitled to take a life? If you're a Republican and you feel entitled to killing animals or going across, you know, oceans to kill enemies, that tells me you're coming from a value system. Okay, there's a value system there I can follow. If you're a person who's advocating for the death penalty, I can follow the logic. How am I supposed to follow the logic from a guy who spent his whole life memeing, by the way, 22 years old, so he's basically a fetus, 22 years old, memeing with his friends. His friends had no clue about his thoughts, were so shocked, wasn't a very political person. And then he felt like, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to kill somebody. Whoa. So let's talk about that today, okay? Let me answer some questions really fast. Chat said, how much of the responsibility falls on the victims being pushed to react in a violent way? Violence should and must be avoided. What is society's role in producing damaged people? Well, great question. I think this is like kind of the, this is the irony of the situation. So what happens is, and this happens to people of color a lot, where like people of color are facing white people. We'll just kind of generalize it here. And white people will do this thing where they're bully. And the one time people of color retaliate, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you did this. You're so violent. And oh my God, look at you. You're so crazy. Oh my God. All it takes is one time. So then people of color and minority communities feel powerless because on one hand, they want to do the right thing and they don't want to be violent. And on the other hand, the people who are willing to be violent towards them will never allow them to be given credit for their kindness or compassion. They will use it to abuse and take advantage of you. Okay. So then the scary thing is that then the minority communities start thinking, okay, well, I have to start thinking like these people, the same people that subjugated me. I'm going to start acting like them because that's how I'm going to win. And then what happens? Okay, well, that can't be the solution. So what is the solution? Now, this is my suggestion for you. You're not going to like it. But I really am working on a philosophical framework. And I think that framework might be the answer. And I'm not telling you a course, girl. I'm putting your soul at ease for the way that the world is. Because I think, guys, I know in 20 years, I'm probably going to, it's kind of going to make more sense than now, but follow me when I say this. When I talk about the levels, and this is an embodied experience, so it's okay if you're not there yet. Right now, the whole world thinks this is everything. And I'm saying if you zoom out, there are layers to this shit. Okay? There's layers to this shit. And I'm saying as long as you believe this is all that matters, you will only ever be limited to this reality. And that is just the bubble of thinking us versus them, right versus wrong, skin color matters, gender matters, transgender matter, God is real, my beliefs are real, I'm the one who knows. It's arrogance and narcissism that lives in this little bubble. And I'm saying if you just take a second to recognize that violence only works if you're violent, then you'll also begin to realize that the world is indeed violent. That as much as progressives even want to talk about, Democrats and liberals want to talk about not participating in the system, we find ourselves participating because we're depressed and sad. The fact that I'm boycotting Amazon for the next year, and there's videos all over TikTok like, guys, how do I do it? I can't wean myself off. It's a values difference. It isn't easy, but the moment I locked in on my values, easy peasy. A girl who spent thousands and thousands of dollars for Amazon. Now, there are limitations. I obviously chose one of the easiest things to protest and boycott. Because at the end of the day, the hardest things, well, I'm not quite ready for. No, do I know how to handle them? I don't even know how to go about doing it. Because I'm not even sure what they are yet. But right now, what I did is I picked and chose, I made a list of all the things I could do for the next 12 months to kind of like harm reduce. Just 12 months. Okay, no Amazon. Easy, because Amazon impacts so many things. Jobs, people's lives, quality of life, environmental. It literally is so impactful on every part of our existence. This one company who never could have gotten to this, status without the participation of all of us. And I know that's really hard to process, but nothing that exists here exists without us. Nothing that exists now exists without us. We are all participating, okay? We're all participating. Every time I see the cobalt mining, these young boys, 12, 13, 14 years old, kidnapped from their families to basically mine cobalt for these companies that end up participating in creating phones for us and electronics. Like, this cannot be the answer. This cannot be good for people. And yet the only way to sort of like combat this idea is to really face ourselves and recognize like none of this can happen without our participation. So then why do we participate? So again, I'm not trying to hold you accountable. I'm trying to say, this is how things happen. What are we going to do about it? Without talking about killing everybody and civil war and dismantling the system, I'm saying we should deconstruct the system. Take it apart, redo it so it's better. Don't destroy anything. Rebuild, reshape. Okay, that's really difficult. That's a completely different goal, right? And I know it's difficult because people are having a really hard time realizing who they are in the story. Like, they're really, really struggling to know who they are in the story. And I understand, by the way, you know what's funny? Because chat says limiting consumerism actually helps so much. It does help you so much. And it also is what leads to a recession a lot of the time. Because then if people aren't buying, companies can't also like have the money to like pay people. So they lay people off. Then a recession begins and then everyone freaks out, right? So there's just kind of like this cycle that happens, but we should never have gotten to this point in the first place. But because people are struggling to know who they are in the story, there's a lot of confusion. And I realized this, when I was little, we used to watch Fern Gully, which is probably before your time. But Fern Gully basically is like the Blue People Avatar story, but different. And my mom would say, this feels like propaganda. I don't know why these guys are always the bad guys, these people. And I'm like, they're destroying the forest. Hello. And she's like, but I don't get it. Or you watch the Avatar Blue People. I don't get why the military is always the bad guy. Because they're killing everything. Okay, it's like watching Pocahontas and being like, I really don't know why you guys are so mad at the white man. It's like, maybe because they didn't mind their own business. Like, they are forgetting who is the bad guy in the story. To the point where we're watching the same movie. Guys, everybody is media illiterate, bro. It's kind of beautifully insane. Look at this. Look at this, just to bring my point to home. This is a fan of Charlie Kirk whistling or pretending to whistle the Hunger Games theme song. The conservatives are co-opting Hunger Games and thinking they're Katniss. What? What? You're obviously the Capitol. What are you talking about? And like, I didn't even read these books. I just saw the first movie. But let me tell you, every dystopian book I've ever read or movie, 1984, all these people, conservatives always think they're on the right side of history. And it's not about Democrats being on the right side of history. That's the other part of this that people need to focus in on. Democrats are also not on the right side of history. They're more on the right side of history, but it's not saying much when they're shaking hands and talking about how Charlie Kirk's legacy needs to live on, Bernie Sanders, or talking about how Ezra Klein, we need to continue Charlie's work. Let's collab with Ben Shapiro. Okay, that's what I'm trying to make people understand is like, if we don't know who we are in the story and then, we continue things the way they are, like it will just cycle through. Okay, so going back to the levels and going back to your question in chat, right? Who's responsible? All of us are responsible. Who's more responsible? We're all responsible for different things. So victims of a system are responsible for different things than perpetrators of a system. So if you go back to the levels are about having a relationship with your introspection, extrospection. So everything inside of yourself and everything outside of yourself. And I know people get mad about this because, the people who don't like me, because they literally are twos stuck in like this bubble. And all of us are stuck in bubbles. And all of us are freed in bubbles because bubbles are perception. Your perception can either free you or trap you. Your perception can either help you grow or keep you limited. There's nothing wrong with being in a bubble. But when you exist in a framework in which you all are twos, but there's two A's, B's, and C's. You're on a framework of you're on a framework of these people taking advantage of these people because because they're the top. So this is like the Trumps, right? This is the Kirks, right? This man worth $12 million his wife was able to raise money, right? The fact that people poorer than so poor gave their money. And it kind of coincides even with streamers where like you're giving money to streamers who are millionaires. It's one thing to take that money and give it to streamers who you know aren't millionaires, because then you're helping out smaller creators and smaller artists. But when you go to a creator that's already making $1 million a year, and then you're like, you know who needs my hard-earned money? That's why on Patreon, I support 2 independent creators. They're people who I know are not making even $50K a year, right? Because I'm like, I'm not giving this money to rich people. You know what I mean? Even if you do on occasion, you're not a bad person. I think we all have. But we're not thoughtful with our money. Not even when we're progressive, we're not thoughtful with our money. We're not thoughtful with who we support. We're not thoughtful because, again, we have to deconstruct so much to even get there. Right? So when you live in a world where like this is what's happening in the 2 bubble, and lots of progressives are 2Bs, okay? Lots of progressives and a lot of conservatives are 2Bs. A lot of them, they really mean well. They really believe they're doing good. They really feel like they have a handle on what's going on, but they have yet to ask themselves, hey, what exists outside of this thing? This thing, which is why when we have these conversations, they'll say, well, Brittany, we are political. You have to be political. You don't have to be political. The world would be better if it wasn't political. But you feel forced, don't you, into a corner to be political? Because politics right now is run by the most evil people ever. But it always has been, hasn't it? I need you to accept it's always been a place for bad people to congregate. So every time you hope, right? And Cavernacle just made a video about this. Every time you hope AOC will be the one. You can't. You cannot be a good person in politics. You cannot be. That's why I chose philosophy. Because I'm really trying to die a good person here. And I was never going to die a good person if I became political. It forces you to be ugly. It forces you to be evil. And it forces you because the loudest voices are evil. And I'm saying, I know that sounds really difficult because you're like, well, what then now? Okay, so hear me out. So here's my recommendation. This is not a goal for you. This is a suggestion. So you can either, you have a couple of options. Stay in the 2 bubbles, which is valid. And be a good community member, love your family and friends, engage in a bubble, follow a framework, a script. Beautiful. Love that. Okay. Usually if you're in a 2 bubble, your script is usually comes from outside of you, right? Like, oh, I'm religious or I'm political. I believe in this. Like it's usually something outside of yourself primarily. Okay. Or of course you can hop over and start deconstructing and go to the 3 bubble, which is like a bridge, and then a 4 bubble eventually. And then eventually, I know this is a little crooked, but eventually you'd get to like maybe a 5 bubble, but you don't have to. There's actually no reason to do it unless you want to. Hold on. Okay. And the 5 bubble's a little bit different. It engages with the world, but doesn't exist there. So the meaning doesn't come from the bubble. The meaning comes from the self out. So that's the difference, right? Between 5s and 2s. 2s get their meaning from the outside in. 5s get their meaning from the inside out, but in relationship with the out. This is not your destiny or your goal if it doesn't bring you joy. This is a suggestion for people that need to take a deep breath, whether you're 2 or 5, and to recognize that the world is exactly the way it is because of us, because of humans, because of nature, right? Like we just are this. This is what we are. Now, is it always who we're going to be? Kind of, but with little caveats. We've obviously grown and changed, and we're at a pivotal point, girls. So I want you to be kind, compassionate. Anytime you feel angry at the world, make it for the world. Switch it up. We're not going to be angry at the world. We're going to be angry for the world, and we're going to do something kind today. We're going to do something good today. We're going to do something healthy today. And even if that starts with you, start with you. Okay, I do not want you to get out here whistling Katniss theme songs, talking about Civil War. I want you to bunker down, make somebody a cup of coffee today, get somebody a gift today, go on a walk today, plant a tree today. Okay, do something. The greatest form of protest is joy. The greatest form of protest is joy. And that's what they don't want. And the they is, by the way, it's not a particular group of people. The they is just people who are committed to being miserable. And there are billions of people committed to being miserable. And they come in all shapes and sizes and labels. Okay? I reject the commitment of misery. I will never commit myself to being misery or miserable. Okay? So we're not going to do that. Okay, we're going to do something better than that. And now, again, you can do something simple. Go in front of your building and pick up some trash. Volunteer with local communities. Outreach to some local gamer groups or book talk groups, but like, book groups like in real life. Do something in the community or just do something for yourself today. Because sometimes when we're really upset with how the world is, we mistreat ourselves, right? Chad said, why would anyone want to be stuck in misery? It's a lack of hope. It's actually a lack of hope and meaning. So today we want to talk about the theme around Tyler Robinson, because Tyler Robinson died or killed Charlie Kirk for no reason. And that's much more concerning than killing somebody for a belief system. At least you know why, right? And we need to talk about that today because I think this loneliness epidemic happening with men is a big part of this. And also when we don't create a safe space for people to be wrong and to be sad, which conservatives are infamous for, we don't allow people to be honest. So example, they've been accusing Tyler's partner of being trans, right? Okay. Is it safe for them to be trans? Are they allowed to come out as trans? Are they in a community where they're allowed to be trans? Because if you can't be trans without also being a predator, then it's not a safe space. So remember, in progressive bubbles, you can come out as a Christian and you will be welcomed because we don't care if you're Christian. We care if you make it my problem that you're Christian, right? Like we don't care if you're a Muslim. We don't care, but you guys care. We need to make it safe for people to be able to say where they are, how they're struggling. And we need to make it safe for men, right? To say, hey, I'm feeling away today. I'm feeling lost today, right? We have to talk about that. Okay. Men will kill their partners at such a high fucking rate and no one's asking why. Obviously we have theories. Women have been talking about it. Femme people have been talking about it. AFAB people have been talking about it, right? Amberlyn Reed, thank you so much for the super chat. I'm committed to being miserable. I'm 69, by the way. Thank you for the super chat. And I don't know what to say to that. You know, that's sad. Thanks for bringing down the mood. I don't know what to do with that. Thanks for the super chat. Okay. So when we're having these conversations, right, we need to make sure that we stay focused. Okay. So here from the Washington Post, the Discord conversation shared with the Post shows members of the group chat reacting to Kirk's shooting Wednesday before the news broke that Robinson was allegedly involved. The group included about 30 people, according to the person who provided screenshots. Charlie Kirk got shot, one friend wrote Wednesday afternoon, according to an image of messages. I just saw the video. Holy shit. Another user wrote about a half an hour later, or an hour and a half later, adding of Kirk, bro didn't deserve to go out like that. Sad. This is the actual picture of the screenshot, so you guys can kind of see it's kind of blurred. Okay, so Charlie Kirk got shot, dead. Just saw the video. Holy shit, R.I.P. I guess. Bro didn't deserve to go out like that. Then Zelius Monkey, which is a username, from my understanding, that just occurs in Discord when the user kind of disappears. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard. It says, hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at the UVU yesterday. I'm so sorry for all of this. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a few moments. Thanks for all the good times and laughs. You've all been so amazing. Thank you for everything. Okay. So that's that, right? And we're going to watch I've Had It, because they did a really good job of going after the also detailed logs that came out as well. But I want you to remember something, right? Like, there is something to be said about why people do everything. And I know some people go, oh, you're overthinking it. There's not always a reason. Guys, there's always a reason. There's always a reason we do everything that we do. And I need you to process that the world is a reflection of that reality. If you do not know why you've done something, right, then you won't be able to solve the problem. Now, let me tell you something you probably don't want to hear. It actually might be years before we know why Tyler did what he did, because Tyler probably doesn't know. You know, you ever see U.S. soldiers come back from Iraq and they're devastated at the things they had done, killing civilians and destroying homes? And years later, they didn't even know why they did it until, major therapy and major self-reflection. We are so arrogant to think we know why we do anything we do. And I'm telling you right now, you should ask yourself, why do I like water the way I like it? Cold, distilled, sparkling. Why do I like the food I like? Why do I like the clothes that I like? Why do I like the people I like? Why do I do anything that I do? We're not asking ourselves those questions. It might take years, and I know people don't want to hear that. So I'm just talking to my audience now. I'm not even going to try to even cater to people who might fucking be out of this, in their own little bubbles here. In this bubble here, we want to know why something happens. Okay? We want to know why we do what we do. And it's really difficult to know. But what's really interesting is like Tyler doesn't know. When he says, well, Charlie Kirk was a bad person, okay, and that's not why you do something. That's not a good enough why, right? Like that's not a why. And people say, oh, that's why. No, that is in no way a motive. That's not how motives work. Why did you do it? Why did you get up? Why did you feel entitled? Did you even for a second ask yourself if this was a ethical or moral thing to do? Did you do it for the who? Did you do it for your partner, yourself, other people? Who does this help? This was an incredibly selfish act that helped absolutely no one. Not one person was helped, right? So why did you do it? That's really difficult to know, right? That's really difficult to know. And we can't know. I could never know why he did what he did. And that's what's really important here. To be honest, I don't even know why Trump does what he does. And you know that, right? You know factually, none of us know why Trump does anything he does. Because nobody's in his head. And the same way, you really don't even know why you do what you do unless you're actually asking yourself. But it feels good to pretend like we know, right? And look, maybe this is philosophy 300 is too far ahead in the course. Maybe this is the last year of college and it's too intense for you guys. But listen to me when I say this. You know we don't know why he does anything. But maybe you don't know that, right? It's a guess. We guess. We think we know. And how dangerous is it that we think we know? We don't know. So once again, I don't advocate for the death penalty. I think no one should die or be hurt or tortured. I think everyone deserves to die with dignity, and that includes bad people. If Tyler Robinson volunteers to die, I respect his ability to do that. I do not respect the ability of the government to come in and end a human life. Okay? All right. Any questions before we move on? Chat says deconstructing forever. Amen. Deconstructing forever. Right? You know, I said to a family member recently, you know, because we were arguing about Tyler and they kept like throwing in all these things like he's a lib, he's this, he's this. And I was like, stop. I'm talking about me. I'm frustrated that I am sharing something about my job and my work and the death threats I've gotten. And you are just focused on those people are crazy and that's what it is. And they're like, well, if, you know, and they got a little defensive. And I was like, I just want you to see me as a person. I can't even get my own family to see me as a person. They can only see me as the progressive YouTuber. And I'm saying, stop. I'm not talking about Tyler. I'm not Taylor. I'm not talking about Tyler. I'm talking about myself. And you can't see it. And that's what's so difficult. I always try to base how I feel about the world, about how I feel about my family, because I really love my family. But if I can get my family to humanize me, to really humanize me, you know what my family keeps doing? Well, both sides got problems. Guys, that's not humanizing people. That's actually dehumanizing them. Well, both sides have problems. No. That's not it, right? Wave, thank you so much for the super chat. Says I'm giving my fave charity today and give away some Pokemon cards. Fuck misery, bro. My partner showed me this guy named Coop on the internet who gives away Pokemon cards to kids and stuff, and it's like pretty wholesome and cute. I don't know if you guys have seen Coop. It's pretty sweet, but your comment reminded me of him. He gives away like cute little, anyway, thank for the super chat. Gives away Pokemon cards to kids. It's like pretty cute. And people donate so kids can get their favorite cards. It's kind of sweet. Anyways, Chet says, I don't know if these texts are real though. The public will never have the details. I don't want to live life as a paranoid person. So I am not, and I do not like conspiracy theorists. I'm going to assume they're real because his friends and family are saying they're real. And I have no reason to doubt them. If the family and friends are saying those are real, I'll believe them. And we probably won't know until later. But I have no reason to doubt they're real, right? I know some people are concerned with the way they read. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Some of us write different than others. I'm not going to like say either way. Let's go over them. This is I've Had It. They go over the text messages in a really great way, and I thought we'd use them to have the convo. So let's do that.
We have breaking news in the murder of Charlie Kirk. The FBI has released text exchanges between the alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson, and his roommate. Kylie popped these up. The roommate, police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson. The roommate told police that the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting and provided those messages to the police. On September 10, 2025, the roommate received a text message from Robinson, which said, "Drop what you are doing, look under my keyboard." The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." Police found a photograph of this note. The following text exchange then took place. After reading the
I have a very strict rule with my family. Do not put me in a position to call the cops on you, because I will. I tell them all the time, do not make me call the police on you, because I will. You know how much I hate calling the cops, but I will do it. How dare you talk about loving your partner and loving humanity and then doing this to your partner? I tell my partner all the time, don't you dare make me visit you in prison. Don't you dare. And that's what this man did. He put his partner and his friends and family in a position where now they get to visit him in prison. And for what? For what did you do? You didn't even go down for a good cause, girl. This isn't even a good cause. Why did you do this? How silly, how selfish, how ridiculous, how fucking entitled.
note, the roommate responded, "What?" with a ton of question marks. "You're joking, right?" And Robinson, the alleged shooter, said, "I'm still okay, my love, but am stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I got to grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you." The roommate responds, "You weren't the one who did it, right?" And Robinson says, "I am. I'm sorry." And the roommate says, "I thought they caught the person." And the alleged shooter says, "No, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I'd planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering." The roommate.
Okay, so people were apprehensive about the idea that he uses the word vehicle and all that stuff. I don't know about this region. I don't know how they talk. I don't know if that's how they speak. Like, we all talk in different ways. So I don't know. But if we believe in bubbles and we know everyone's culturally different, people talk different in different places. I have no education about this level. Okay? Or about this bubble. Sorry. I have no idea how they speak. I do not know the words they use. Some people call trucks cars. Some people call trucks truck. Like, I don't know. Chad said, "Isn't his dad a cop?" No, that was bad information. Chad says, "This sounds so fake." It sounds fake, but have you guys ever seen the text messages between Lauren Southern and Destiny? Those also sound fake. Have you ever seen the text messages between you and your exes? Those also sound fake. Cringy as fuck. So I caution everyone from assuming that these are fake because they sound weird. But I also want to point this out, and this is the point that I think people are missing. I don't care about the text messages. Charlie Kirk is dead, and he's taking accountability for it. So now we need to know why. That's the only thing that matters to help prevent this in the future. How did you get here? What made you feel entitled to taking this person's life? And what continues to make Charlie Kirk fans feel entitled to calling for a civil war because of what one man did? Right? That's what I want you to focus on. Don't get, see, you're naturally doing it, right? You're naturally moving into, oh, these don't sound real. What if they're not real? Do these messages matter? They matter to point out how we cling to any detail for an answer when we know they're not here. They're not here. The answer isn't here. The interesting part is that when they searched his Discord logs, when they looked into him, when his friends were interviewed, they said, "We never knew him to in any way be political." So there's a chance this was just, once again, a white man raised under patriarchy, entitled to people's bodies and time, and entitled to feeling good enough to kill somebody for his own selfish reasons. And so the question today is, do we get to point fingers at the patriarchy yet? Because was he even in a bubble where it was safe to come out and talk to people? Listen, you know how his mom was like, oh, his partner was transitioning. Well, first, now it's not even safe for the partner to come out and say they were, because you're also transphobic. You're going to hunt down this person. Now it's not even safe for them to say they were or not. Also, it doesn't really matter. But also, when we really talk about these topics, we have to think about what led to it step by step. What environments are we raising our own kids in that they can't come to us before doing something like this? Because they don't have parents who protected them or shielded them or even had their backs. Because remember, right? Like, if Charlie Kirk lived his whole life, which he did, talking bad about everybody who wasn't him, Muslims, a billion people, every Muslim, okay, gay people, trans people, billions of people on the planet, right? And this boy was raised in that environment with parents he knew would back up that rhetoric, that it's not even a safe space for him to come and see, like, to feel like a human. But it's not their fault. It's their responsibility to stop the behavior that leads to people being so easily conditioned by the internet. Okay? Same thing with getting lost on the internet. If you as parents are giving your kid iPads and you're not watching what your kids are watching, they're probably being indoctrinated and getting propaganda shoved down their throats. But the issue too is that the same people that are, angry at trans people and hate gay people probably also hate Miss Rachel. So then what are we really talking about? So now the issue is no longer about Miss Rachel or Palestine or anything else. It's about you. What leads you to growing up to be an adult who hates Miss Rachel? What gets you to take the side of Trump over the people? What makes farmers vote for Trump when he doesn't help them? Right? What is that? Okay, so then that's a bigger question, right? So again, like, we have to ask ourselves all of these questions. It's like, okay, so hold on, because again, you're getting muddled down in the weeds, right? So what they're doing, what everyone's doing, everyone's participating in this. It's this. And I'm saying, whoa, slow down. It's getting messy. I can't see the picture anymore. How am I supposed to even understand what's happening? Or if you want, here's the picture. Okay, let's say this is the answer. But I can't see that because you guys are literally doing this. And I'm like, I can't see. And everyone's like, no, I see it clearly. I know what it is. Yeah, but I don't know what it is. And everyone's like, no, it's this. Can't you see it? No, I can't see it. Can you see it? Okay, we need to get back where I can see the picture clearly. And I can't see it clearly right now. Is anyone else willing to admit that too? I don't know what is going on. Why are you pretending to know what's going on? We do not know why he did this, and I don't even think he will know why he did this for years to come. I'm saying I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. And not just about him in this instance, but what leads to this. And again, do not let Republicans rewrite this history that they have been the party of discrimination, subjugation, sexism, and transphobia and all of it. Because again, and I've seen an amazing amount of Christians come out and speak against this, but for the most part, they are co-opting the word Christian in order to be disgusting. But even if you deconstruct past that, even the good Christians, even the good Muslims, y'all got to deconstruct that too. Because even the Christians that are turning the other cheek and who are being kind, still at the end of the day believe a man died and rose from the dead. And it's so funny how so many of us spend all of our lives trying so hard to genuinely understand this idea around God, at the consecration, turning the bread and wine into the blood and body of Christ. And you can't take a second to consider gender. You're not even curious. You're not even open-minded. And I know why you're not. Because most people are afraid if I'm open-minded, I'll change my mind. Exactly. I want you to be open-minded enough to change your mind, but not open-minded enough that you head in a direction that's not helpful. If the result of your community thought is death, if the only solution your belief system brings is destruction, it's probably not good, guys. Okay? It's probably not good. I'm not going to tell you which belief system to adhere to, but I would encourage you and implore you to choose a belief system that ends up feeding people, clothing people, and being there for your community. I would implore you to choose a belief system that treats yourself with kindness and that kindness radiates out. Okay, I'm not going to tell you the label. You can pick which label does this for you. But I would recommend that you pick a belief system, adhere to a value system that allows you to wake up every day knowing that you did one thing good today and it helped somebody, right? And it didn't just make you more money. And it didn't, hurt somebody at the expense of your own, or you didn't benefit at the expense of somebody else. So that's what I tried to do. I tried to pick a belief system that allows me to say, how do I be a little less bad today? But maybe that's triggering and maybe you don't want to think of yourself as a bad person. Without beating yourself up, philosophically speaking, I think of myself as a product of a bad world with good intentions. I think the world has really good intentions as a whole. But I think it's really as a whole very ignorant and very head in the sand And so it's my responsibility to deconstruct that and to do something better with it. But I don't think of myself as like, I'm going to beat myself up bad person. I think of myself more like a person who's a product of a bad world. And so I can't be totally good. I can't be totally good if I'm a product of my world. Right? So you choose the framework, but you still got to choose a framework. Right? Okay, let's go back.
It is why. Robinson says, why did I do it? The roommate says, yeah. Robinson says, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt.
So he said, okay, hold on. He said, I've had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. Which is interesting because that's exactly what Charlie Kirk said. In a lot of Charlie Kirk videos, that's exactly what Charlie Kirk said. He said, you can't negotiate with these people. Even JD Vance came out and just said, you cannot negotiate with people. But see how this isn't a why? Yeah, but why can't you negotiate with people? Why can't some hate be negotiated with? Why can't we do it? This isn't a motive yet. Now, a lot of people are grabbing onto this and saying this is a motive. How is this a motive to you people? How is this a motive? Because honestly, with peace and love, you are simple-minded. This is how simple-minded the world is. Oh, I guess you just did it because you like hated people, bro. No! 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 That's like, you don't even know your own Jesus story. Why did Jesus get hung by the cross? Why did they hang Jesus, bro? Why did they hang Jesus? You're not even getting into the weed of the story. You have to have a correct motive. So you have to know the inner workings of the story. You think, oh, they just hung Jesus because they were like, he was disrespectful to the Jews. Oh, that's why they just hung Jesus because he was like being super mad disrespectful? Lock in, okay? Why does JD Vance feel empowered to get on stream on Charlie Kirk's YouTube channel and say to people there's no negotiating with the left? So let me get this straight. When this kid says it, he's bad. But when the vice president of the United States says it and has the power of the military, oh, all of a sudden it's chill, bro. He said they're going to wage war on the left, right? Trump and him have promised they're going to go after Charlie's killers. Who? So cool. So now JD Vance and the shooter have the same belief systems. Some hate isn't negotiated with. What are we talking about? What does that mean? Okay.
To retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. The roommate is still, trying to juggle with all of this. He says, how long have you been planning this? Robinson says a bit over a week, I believe.
No, you're wrong, Chatter. Chatter says there's a layer of truth to the fact that we can't talk to everyone and understand one another in different bubbles. It's not a statement that is necessarily wrong. You're wrong and you're playing into their hands. It is wrong to say some people can't be negotiated with, so now we have to kill them. You should never have to kill people. You should never have to kill people because you don't get along with them. And that's the twisting people are doing on my videos. I actually believe, unlike Kirk, that you should never kill somebody because you disagree, or because they're evil, or because they're a bad person. You should, in very rare circumstances, when a knife is pointed at you and a gun is pointed directly at you, have to, in some situations, defend yourself. But at the end of the day, that is rarely the case. That is almost never happening. It is very rare that is happening. And in the rare circumstances it is happening, it's often a cop. The irony is that in every situation in which self-defense would be the most important, it's usually a cop or somebody in uniform using that power to take advantage of you. Okay? So we need to pay attention to the fact that we, under most of these circumstances, should never be engaging in violent behavior. The fact that willy-nilly men raised under patriarchy engage in most of the violent behavior is going completely ignored because this man, at the end of the day, was a man engaging in violent behavior because that's how he was raised. That's how he was raised. Why was he raised to think violence was the answer? And the same way JD Vance is calling for it now, the same way Trump is calling for it now, the same way Kirk's wife is calling for it now, Erica Kirk. Why is violence your only answer? Why are you calling for the death penalty? Interesting that the same people who are blaming the left for being violent, the only answer you have is violence. What is the point of being violent? Now listen, we are adults in this room. We know violence is sometimes but rarely necessary. And this is why I always give the example of killing a cow to make a burger. Because some people are not willing to admit that's a form of violence. Guys, Of course it's a form of violence to kill a cow to make a burger. And that's the part people don't want to contend with. You're not even willing to start challenging yourself to be thinking, oh yeah, like we really do kill animals out here to eat. And now you're probably thinking, oh, what? So like, I can't eat a burger? I didn't even say that. But I'm asking you to think. I'm asking you to think about what it means to eat a cow. Because I can't even get you to stop and think about what it means to kill a person. You're so bloodthirsty. You're so bloodthirsty.
I can get close to it, but there's a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. And then Robinson goes on to say, I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa.
I wonder if he's talking like chat to talk. A vehicle is such an interesting word. It's such a old person word, but maybe he's kind of one of those old soul 22-year-olds. Maybe he's born in a bubble where like they speak very like, instead of saying car, it's vehicle. Can anyone tell me, are you guys from his region? I don't even know where he's from. Do you guys say vehicle?
Rifle. I don't know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry.
Chatter said violence ended the Vietnam War. Violence started the Vietnam War. Corruption and greed started and maintained that Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was so fucking disgusting and never had to happen in the first place. You're so fucking bloodthirsty, and I'm going to mute you from my chat. The Vietnam War should never have happened. What a disgusting display of human behavior. Disgusting. It did not. Violence has never ended anything. Violence has never helped anybody, has never saved anybody. Violence at that scale has never been the answer. Has never been the answer. How devastating that our military soldiers right now are still suffering from PTSD that has made a majority of them literally homeless. The same group of homeless people, unhoused people that Fox News hosts are saying we should give forced lethal injection to. Good job, world. Good job, men.
About my prints, I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find Prince. How the fuck will I explain losing it to my old man? It goes on. Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving bullets? The fucking messages are mostly a big meme. If I see, quote, notices bulge UWU on Fox News, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm going to have to leave it. That really fucking sucks.
So apparently he's admitting that he's memeing. So why did he do it? Even if he says it's for the meme, that's not really why. Why do boys think any joke is worth it even if it kills people? Why do some boys get so radicalized into these meme cultures that they think it's worth it for the meme? How is ever killing somebody for the meme worth it? How do you become this person? How do you become this person?
Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun does just fine. I don't know. I think that was a $2,000 scope. And then Robinson tells the roommate, delete this message. Robinson says, my dad wants photos of the rifle. He says, Grandpa.
And also, I cannot believe that they text messaged any of this. Like, he knew he was going to get caught. What modern kid isn't watching enough movies or YouTube videos to know, like, not to text message any of these things if you did this crime? Like, he obviously was meaning to be caught, right? Like, this is a subconscious or conscious decision to get caught. Text messages, bro. You think they're not going to subpoena your phone? Hello?
Wants to know who has what. The feds released the photo of the rifle, and it's very unique. He's calling me right now, and I'm not answering. And then Robinson goes on to say, since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff.
Yeah, he wanted to get caught. So that's another part of the question. Okay, so you wanted to get caught. What's your message to the people? Why'd you do this? What's the message? What's the goal? What are you doing for? What are you doing it for? Right? Like, what is your motivation? We don't know. Right? And he's going to need so much therapy to even know why. And I know people are like, kill him, no therapy. You don't want to problem solve anything. I want to problem solve. I want to know why things happen. Okay, so why did you do this? Who is it for? Who do you think would be thanking you? See how none of us are thanking you? Thanks for nothing, shit for brains. Now, I am still, and I feel the same way about Luigi, y'all got to get off that man's dick. You all got to get off this man's dick. His pretty privilege is blinding you. You are blinded. All of those women, Habibis, please listen to your Auntie Brittany. Hi, hello. Are you literally going to court to support a man right now? You're literally putting your reputation on a man? I cannot believe the amount of girls who showed up to support Luigi. Ladies, get off his dick. What are you doing? When are you going to get it? Never trust a man. Hello. Lock in, ladies. A man who's willing to commit murder? Great job, ladies. Good job. Habibi, what are you doing? I cannot believe how many girls showed up, bro. Everyone is down so bad. Everyone is down so bad, bro. God, I can't believe it. You guys got to stop doing this. But of course they can't, because all women participate until they deconstruct, upholding the patriarchy. Here's a conservative woman.
Are all Charlie Kirk. And you think you can silence Charlie Kirk, but his message just got infinitely louder, because together we are Charlie Kirk. But what does that mean? It means to be fearless. Yes. It means to fight for our convictions. Yes. It means to never back down from those people who want to silence us. Yes. And to reject this concept that truth is dead and to speak the truth to the world. Yes. But to be Charlie Kirk, to say we are Charlie Kirk, means so much more than that. It means to empty ourselves of ourselves and to be a vessel, a pure vessel for God.
Girl.
To accomplish his will in the world, not our own. Not for our own glory, not for our own egos, but to wake up every day and say, here I am, Lord, send me.
Girl, sit down, girl. All these people, oh, by the way, you know what's so interesting? Okay, no, hold on, pause, Brittany. Don't get ahead of yourself. Let's finish out this video, but I have so many things to show you, okay?
And then he says, you are all I worry about, my love. And the roommate says, I'm much more worried about you. And the alleged shooter says, don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. So this is like a bombshell. And what I'm seeing in this is that some of it, if all of this is true, which I'm always skeptical of anything coming out of the Trump administration.
Sure.
But the person that completely cooperated with the police is the trans roommate.
Right. All of his friends, all of his family are cooperating with police. I don't think anyone's trying to protect him or hide. I think they're all just shocked. And this is why I say like values over loyalty, but also what encouraged him to make this decision. Again, values over loyalty. Okay. I say this to all my family members. I love you. I will visit you in prison because you're a consciousness that I love, but I will not support your bad decisions. I will not support your bad decisions. And killing somebody like this is always a bad decision. This benefits absolutely zero people.
MAGA is going to go on an all-out anti-trans campaign. And what I'm seeing here is that this kid wasn't really like into leftist ideology, nor was he like a diehard MAGA. Like a lot of these shooters, their ethos and their...
And this is what I mean when you got to let people be wrong. We are all allowed to be wrong that he was not liberal or MAGA, but we have to be able to say, oh shit, we were wrong. But what happens is like, so if I get on stream right now and I say, okay, guys, I was wrong. He doesn't seem to be like a Trumper. Everyone's going, see, he's not a Trumper. So everything we said was right. No, he can not be a Trumper and still be not a liberal, or he can be this thing and not this. And also, reminder that I'm not a liberal. Just a reminder, if he is a liberal, okay, well, liberals suck, so I'm not surprised. Which, by the way, who, do you know what I'm saying? Like, they're doing this like, see, it's your side. My side, who? Again, we have to have these conversations with understanding that, of course, we don't want to see somebody who looks like us, talks like us, or represents us in some capacity to be the arbiter of bad things. But like I've seen the quotes so many times before, and I'm sure people of color came up with it, white people want to take credit for everything except white supremacy. White men love to take credit for everything except the amount of violence they perpetrate. I was thinking about this earlier, and please forgive me when I say this. Take a deep breath through this. I will never forget that white men convinced the world that Emmett Till was killed by a white woman. Emmett Till, who is beaten and bludgeoned to death, whose mother had to have an open casket so people could see what they did to her son because a white woman lied about him whistling at her. But remember who killed that little boy. Remember who tore his body into pieces. And remember who took the fall for it completely. Even though she was responsible, remember who went down in history as the person who killed Emmett Till, a white woman. Even as these white women uphold the patriarchy, their men abandoned them. Their men framed them. Remember that everyday, white ladies, when you sit there and you think my conservative husband will protect me, are you sure about that, girlies? Because he's about to throw you under the bus just as fast as he would throw anyone else under that bus.
Ideology is somewhat ambiguous. It's somewhat isolating, and it's different. And we do know that this kid grew up in a Mormon family, a very MAGA family. And I imagine if he were bisexual or not completely cis, or hetero.
Exactly. How safe is it even to come out? How safe is it even in his family? Is it even to have a support system? How many conservative people? And that's why, guys, do not let the conservatives gaslight you. These people are gay. Okay, as a queer person myself, coming from a queer family, we're gay, we're trans, we're into furries, we're into all of it. We're there. That's why when the Republican National Convention happens, Grindr literally gets broken. Don't let these people gaslight you. The reason they're mad at us is because we're willing to say it's okay to be trans and gay and furry. And they're mad because they know that their religion and their doctrine and their community doesn't like it. You know how many Trump voting furries I know? And they're all so ashamed of their family finding out. But they still want to take solace in queer communities. Girl, if you don't make me, this is why I say watch out. Watch out for these people, okay, who create a circumstance in which their kids are radicalized and have to hide things from them. I always say my conservative parents made their kids great liars because you made it an unsafe place for people to come to you. So again, I say to you, I want rehabilitation, but rehabilitation doesn't mean like coming out into the world and having the life you had before. I don't believe in the death penalty, and I don't believe in torturing people either. Okay? I think people should be rehabilitated. They should be given an opportunity to come to the realization that they were wrong, but that doesn't mean they should have the life they had before. It means they would have a new life, a life that reflected these changed values. Okay? That's what it's for. It's for the chance that people could hold themselves accountable and say something like, okay, right now what they're doing, I was watching a little bit of Hassan Piker. I know, girl, the way I could criticize him so much right now. But he said something interesting that I did find fascinating, that some of the Republicans are taking the streamer Destiny and using him as an example of like these extremist liberals. Reminder that Destiny is a piece of shit predator and should never be platformed by anyone. And anyone willing to platform Destiny is absolutely disgusting and deplorable, right? We know this. We know this now. As of 2025, the year of our Lord FK Twig, starting right now, if you are platforming this man, okay, associating with this man, collaborating with this man, you're doing the evil, bro. You're doing evil. And the fact that Destiny, who has a reputation of being a edgelord, of being a person who pisses people off on purpose, of being a person with absolutely no values, the fact that people are weaponizing Destiny as a talking head because he is advocating for violence and Hassan isn't, right? That's the issue we're having. Is like, yeah, this guy doesn't represent us. He actually has made it clear that he doesn't want to be a part of the left. So again, he is just here to line his pockets. He's just here to feel satisfied because he's trapped in a 16-year-old mindset of being an edgelord. That's the issue we're having. So remember, don't let these streamer boys who have no sense of values be the arbiters of what is good in the world. It is very hard to be a good person in the world. And it certainly isn't these boys, aren't these boys who are having a pedo off with Ethan Klein, okay? So remember that. Yeah, barely a liberal. He's barely a liberal, right? So again, I want you to focus in on this. Again, when you come from a belief system that says I'm anti-death penalty, I believe in harm reduction and anti-violence, it's really difficult for people to grasp what that means because they also want to be like, well, what about this situation? What about this situation? What about this situation? Yes, each situation should be considered. We should consider the nuance of every situation. But we don't need to get the law involved to make things illegal or to make things legal. We need to have conversations about why we have our values. And this is very hard for people. People can't, that's why I hate politics, bro. You're not having a serious conversation about right and wrong. You're not being serious. Again, I work my hardest to try to figure out religious people, where they come from, how do they come to their conclusions. I work so hard to read books and figure it out. Tell me about your life. Tell me about your belief. How does that work for you? They are not doing the same in return. And I'm imploring you, please try to do the same in return. You don't need to all of a sudden be a liberal, but just to be able to say, when you say, I get you, I want to hear you say it. When you tell me I understand you, when you say it, I want to agree. Because even I'm happy to disagree with you if you can actually prove to me you understand me. Because the dilemma we're having right now is we're not understanding each other. And then we're saying, I get you. No, do you? Do you get me? Before you disagree with me, make sure you understand my perspective. Because that's what's happening with this whole like boomer situation where people don't know the difference between furries and trans people and gender fluid people and cat boys and femboys. Like, guys, these are all different categories of people. And they're like, it's all the same. It's not all the same. And the same way that I tell my progressive community, guys, being MAGA is not the same thing as being alt-right, is not the same thing as being conservative, is not the same thing as Republican. These are all different things. They're all different. Like, I know it sounds like they're all the same, but they're not. Marina, welcome to memberships. Happy to have you here. Appreciate you.
That could make him feel very isolated in very conservative Utah. But Ken Kleppenstein, who is an independent journalist, actually did a lot of work, and he interviewed all of the people in Tyler Robinson's group. They have a gaming group where they message each other. And anybody who has teenage sons, I have sons, they have people they video game with, and they chat about their gaming.
Oh my God. I said earlier, oops, where am I? I'm not even here. I said earlier, I forgot where he's from. He's from Utah, of course. Duh. I can't believe I forgot that, obviously.
The right wing.
Obviously. And also, I have a Discord. Everyone has a Discord. Discord's just a chatting platform. It's a great chatting platform, but it's just Discord, you know? But when they researched his DMs to his friends were deeply shocked about this happening, right?
Narrative right now from the administration is that there is a network of transgender terror cells, and nothing could be further than the truth from that. Tyler Robinson's group is reeling from this. They are horrified and shocked. And Ken Kleppenstein did a lot of work on this. The Serfs, he summarizes it, says the leaked Discord logs show that the FBI have been spreading a false narrative. The friends of the shooter were not celebrating or cheering on Charlie Kirk's death. They were shocked and horrified that his politics are not exclusively left-wing and the media is getting it wrong. And then Kleppenstein says, no one in Robinson's group is cheering or justifying the murder in any of the messages that he personally reviewed. They're all struggling to understand what their friend did.
Exactly. They are struggling. Chat says, how do we connect to antisocial people? We don't connect to them. They have to connect with us. And we have to give them a chance to. We have to build a world where they can. I think people are forgetting, and I believe this, and it's hard for people to process. So again, we're going to zoom out again, girls. Okay. This is the problem. When I say this, your ego is going to trick your brain into thinking you get it. So your ego is going to trick itself into thinking, oh yeah, I get what Brittany's saying. Because what I'm saying is going to sound like something you've heard before, but I'm not saying that thing you've heard before. So, okay, pause and really think about what I'm saying. Okay. What's going to happen is you have to process that like we're animals on a planet. Okay. Stop right there. How hard was that to process? Probably pretty fucking hard. Because you think you get it, but you don't. In the same way people think they understand that we're floating on a rock in space, but they don't get it. Like you don't really get it. Okay. So here's the problem. Okay. So we're floating on this rock in space. And within this little rock in space, there's all of these ideas about the world and how it should work. And then within all of these bubbles, there's people having kids who are definitely not ready and not prepared and don't know any better and absolutely aren't ready to handle the reality that their kid can become a shooter, right? If you have a child and you are not ready to prepare for that child to be a school shooter, you shouldn't have a baby. Because when you become a parent, you are not guaranteed a non-school shooter child. You hopefully will raise that child with enough value, enough boundary setting, enough mental health that they will not choose to be a school shooter, but you cannot guarantee that they won't be a school shooter. So then when your kid shoots up the school, you can't be like, I didn't see this coming. Oh my God. The truth is there was probably a lot of signs that Tyler was going to do this, but we won't know what those were. In the same way that when you break up with your boyfriend after 10 years of trying, you look back at your life, you're like, oh my God, there were signs day one. But it's hard to know there were signs because as we move through life, we make excuses for people's bad behavior, make excuses for their red flags, and we excuse it and we ignore it. I've done it. You've done it. We're all going to do it. We're all going to do it. We're all going to do it always forever. And I'm saying until we start really understanding that the nicest people you know are probably doing the worst things possible to other people, it's going to be really difficult. Whether you have family units like mine, where like there's predators invited to get-togethers, it's like you're looking at people and it's ironic because when you say, why is this person coming to the get-together? They go, oh, what? So they can't be redeemed? yeah, guys, they can be redeemed, but not the way you think. Predators aren't redeemable the way non-predators are. The path to redemption for a predator is for them to dedicate the rest of their life to realizing how they harmed people and to stay far away from the next victim. The only redemption you have is the ability to stay away from people, not to get brought back in, not for you to be close to more possible victims. That's why I know you're not sorry, because you want to be around more sensitive, vulnerable people. And that's why I'm saying you have to be ready as a parent to turn your kids in. And you have to be ready as a parent to stop your kids and prevent them from becoming more radicalized. But first, you have to ask yourself, am I radicalized? First, you have to ask yourself, am I the problem? Am I the bad parent? And how hard is it to tell your boomer parents they haven't been the best parents? Huh? Right? Chat says, how many people have had more friends versus having drinking buddies, smoker friends they saw as friends, work friends as seen as real friends? Like, are you asking like, how many people have a real community? To be honest with you, and this is going to be hard for people to process as well, real community doesn't exist. Sorry, guys. Real community doesn't exist. And I know that's really hard for you to process. Community is on shaky ground, and it forms and shifts based off of how it cracks over time. Okay? So the reality is, like, there is no community. There is only a foundation that cracks into new community. But there is no real community. Community is temporary and predicated on how people act and show up. The community isn't real, it's a fact. Real, in this context, Chess says, what do you mean by real community? What I mean by real community is that dream, that facade of somebody knowing you so deeply, that like so intimately, everyone has each other's back. It's so perfect, nothing goes wrong. Guys, was Vegeta not a part of Goku's community when he killed all those people in the stadium because Majin Buu gave him the power? Or Babidi gave him the power? Okay, was Sasuke not a part of a real community when he was like, peace out, bitch, I'm gonna go kill people? Okay, the concept of a real community being the thing that prevents people within the community from, quote, being bad is a fiction. If you look at lore, you look at story, you look at everything, community is there, and individuals within the community change and shift the community based off action. Okay? So again, we all have a community, but the community is predicated on the participants and on the ability to kick people in and out of the community. Okay? Community is complicated. Okay? So I think like you have to remember that dream you have of a perfect friend group, that dream you have of a bestie, your bestie's still allowed to go and be immoral and unethical. And then what? What do? You know how many people I meet who tell me, Brittany, I feel so alone in the world. I have nobody, even though I have so many people. Yeah, because you refuse to, again, engage in the reality that those people are entitled to living out their life the way they want, including being bad. Your friends cannot be good for your sake. Your friends must be good because of their own values. And then you have to decide how to be there for them, how to hold them accountable, how to build community with them, and also how to kick them out. Okay? So again, you have to deconstruct this idea that we are all just participants, which is why I encourage my community to deeply try to understand one another. And if you can't, you have to accept that you can't, but you can't blame other people. The idea is like you have to accept that they can't see you. Now blame them for it. Accept it, don't blame them. Okay? Chat says it's definitely different with a partner, life partner, right? No, the life partner still has to show up every day and act accordingly. And if they step out of that accordance, boom, you're done. If my life partner turned around and was like, actually, bro, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Honestly, bro, like mad, sad over this death. Honestly, bro, like kind of was an American hero. I'd be like, it's over, bitch. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Ain't no way these rings belong to a person who's about to call Charlie Kirk an American hero, girl. Ain't no way I committed life to a man or woman or whatever who's about to, like, you know what I'm saying? Ain't no fucking way. Okay? about to call Charlie Kirk an American hero. Absolutely not. The joke is, I also married somebody who we don't even believe in the idea of an American hero. It's a patriarchal bullshit lore created by white men so they feel good about themselves when they kill minorities. Anyways, so deconstruct your sense of a community. Look, I think, and this is what's difficult, when I say be a good community member, I mean do right by the community, even if the community doesn't do right by you. This is my community. Okay, so here, I live in Croatia, which is in Europe. And I'm also an American, okay? But I am in Croatia and I do right by the community. Love living here. It's great, by the way. And I do right by the community in the way that I can, in the way that I understand how to. My community is also this community here on YouTube, okay? I also live here on YouTube and I have a community here. I also have a community on my Discord. I also have a community with my friends. I also have a community with, hello. I also have a community with my parents. I also have a community with my siblings. I also have a community with my cat. I also have a community with myself. And ultimately, if you think about it this way, what I want to be at the core of your community is yourself. Okay, here's myself. Okay, my friends and family, my work life, my planet life. Okay, right? Or maybe my country life and then maybe my planet life. But see at the corner of your community, it's still you. Not in a narcissistic way, but in a hopefully fulfilling way that allows you to have good community with yourself, to then be good community with others. Because if we don't heal that thing within ourselves, guys, we will show up badly for our community. That's why people are really bad to each other, because they're bad to themselves. Tyler Robinson didn't love himself. That's why he couldn't love his partner properly or love his community properly. He must have really hated himself that he put all of those people in a position to watch Charlie Kirk die. How devastating is that? How absolutely devastating is that? That in no way, shape, or form did he ever consider all of those innocent people who had to witness this death. If not for Charlie, why not for them? If not for Charlie, why not for any of them? And if not for Charlie, why not for your partner? Why would you put your partner in this position? Why would you do that to somebody you love? That's the question. All right, back to the video.
What he sees is a bunch of young people shocked, horrified, and searching for answers like the rest of the country. So the narrative that MAGA and all of the MAGA influencers want to put out is that this is any person on the left is involved in some domestic terrorism, transgender cell, and these are all quiet sleeper cells that are getting activated. Everybody in this kid's life.
No! Chat says, I consider this a virtual escapism bubble community that makes me feel seen and not crazy. I want you to feel grounded, not escapism. Escapism is bad. It means you're turning off your brain and not engaging with your sanity. Escapism is away from groundedness. I hope you start to look at this community as a place to be grounded, as a way to be grounded in reality, not to escape from it. I don't want you to shield yourself from reality, y'all. I want you to know that the world is a beautiful place because you exist in it. And I need you to stop escaping from it and be more in it. People are always using their fantasies to like dictate their values and how they move forward. I want you to use your values, right? But I'm happy you found a safe space here. That makes me really happy. I hope eventually it becomes a place to ground you. And it no longer feels like an escape, but a reality.
Life is shocked at this, had no idea. His roommate / alleged lover had no idea. And while the shooter in the text exchanges that I read to you all is talking about the gun and he's really worried about the gun, the roommate's like, why did you do this? How long has this been going on? Are you serious? Like, is trying to wrestle with it. All the people in his Discord chat from the video games were shocked because he wasn't overtly political at all. So you have...
It's just interesting, though, in America, boys can play COD, sign up to go to Afghanistan to kill Arabs, and no one thinks to question it. That police officers can write on their guns violent sayings while killing innocent Americans. It's just so interesting that in America, we let people in uniform get away with killing civilians because, you know, America. And we wonder what leads to this. We wonder what creates this environment. In what way should you be proud of your son who wants to go overseas to kill Arabs? Like, at what point is that beautiful or good or healthy, right?
This story like you do about so many shooters. And this one is even more of a mystery than a lot of them because he really has no political thumbprint, it appears. There's no conversations with friends about being hyper politicized or hyper radicalized either by the left or by the right. He clearly didn't like Charlie Kirk, and clearly had, some.
It's interesting. Okay, Chad says no. Thank you for the nice words, Chad. I see you. Chad said apolitical just means status quo conservative. So funny enough, I actually kind of agree with this, but not maybe. I don't know if you're saying this, but let me know. So what happens is America as a default is conservative. Okay, conservative. But conservatives don't believe it. They don't believe that conservatives have any say in how America goes because that's part of the propaganda. But obviously being conservative is the majority. Trump is literally president. Okay. And that's crazy. Trump winning in 2024, 25, 24. Oh my God, it just happened. And it feels like it's been 5 years. Do you know I literally keep thinking he's been in office for 3 years? It's been almost a year. Oh my God. Breathe. Okay. Get through this. So conservatives are the default of culture. Okay. Culture is the default. Okay. And so when I don't even want to say Republican, conservative. I know you can't even read my handwriting, but stay with me here. Okay. When you're these things, that is the default. So when you're left, I'm going to say you are actually a smaller part of the pie, but these guys are such a big part of the pie that they go and they talk about you so much, it makes it sound like your pie is a lot bigger. Conservatives spend all of their time talking about leftists so they can make people feel like you're everywhere. Remember when people were going with the microphone to people on the street and they said, how many trans people do you think exist in the United States? And people said 50%. Or when people went up to people and said, how many black people do you think exist in the United States? And they said 50%. You think there are 50% black people in the United States? You think 50% of people are trans? And that's because conservatives and Fox News, which is an entertainment channel, they talk about you so much that they make everyone else think you're everywhere, bro. You're like the new boogeyman to people. Be careful. A black trans person might be behind you, And you're just sitting here like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? We are surrounded by white men every day of our lives. Okay? Every day of our lives. And you're out here saying like, oh, don't let people gaslight you into convincing you that you are the problem when you're not even big enough of a problem to be a problem. Okay? That's what's insane about the world we live in. So again, that's why the narrative is the way it is. Everything is trans. Trans people are everywhere. Trans this and trans that. Who are the people talking about trans people all the time?
Something mentally wrong there. I mean, there's a sociopathy or a psychopathy there that somebody can do that, regardless of how much you dislike the person. That's very severely broken. And this administration is going to continue to use this and spin it the way they want to. All they have to say is transgender and crazy leftist ideology, and that's not what this is. And them not digging deep and being honest and transparent about what this is and realizing that this is not what people on the left want. This is not what Tyler Robinson's friends wanted. It's not what his roommate wanted. This is a horrific incident of gun violence in this country that we should be building data to figure out how we can tackle it so that people aren't getting shot. But instead, I'm afraid the Trump administration is going to use this. And you can see from here, this kid doesn't sound really left or right. People who knew him didn't know what his politics were. And they're going to use this.
But also, like, again, what part of his values led him to doing this? Because we know the part of the value of the conservative men saying we're going to start a civil war, we know their values, right? Because they're telling us we value, first of all, any man who is fantasizing over the civil war, right? Like all these men, like, why are you even talking about civil war? And we've been hearing this. I think, what's that name? Tim Pool? Tim Pool has made like videos for the last like 5 years about civil war. Civil war. It's going to be a civil war. Why do y'all want to go to war so bad? You can't. You're such a pussy. You can't even handle trans people being around. You're so pussy. You can't even handle words. And you want to go to war? It's literally Vinland Saga all over again. These boys in these cushy ass villages being like, man, I want to go to war. They see one bitch get killed in front of them and they're like, holy fuck. And I'm like, yeah, stupid. You can't even kill the chickens you eat. And you're out here saying, Tim Pool. Do you know what I'm saying? What makes you want to fantasize about going to war? You are so stupid. If you in any way think it's going to be easy to go to war, you are so dumb. You are literally not even going to survive, bro. You're literally, you're not going to survive. It's a fantasy for them. It's a literal fantasy. You're gross that your fantasy is killing people. You're gross.
this to erode all of our civil rights. And the language that is coming out of the administration, from the president to Pam Bondi to Lil Smokey, the vice president, Kash Patel, and others, is that they want to use this to erode civil rights. They want to go around, and anybody who isn't grieving the way they think they should be grieving or isn't dealing with this the way they feel like it should be dealt with, they want these people fired, they want them incarcerated, they want their money gone, and this is all leading to the erosion of civil rights.
Exactly. If you use this as an opportunity to take away people's civil rights, how do you think you're on the right side of history? How do you think you're doing good for people? Trump was in the White House talking about trans people. What do we have to do with this? What are we going to do? What does this have to do with me? So yes, Chatter, to finish the thought I had about the default being conservative culture, the default in culture is, just like Taylor Swift is, default conservative. I know y'all want to bat for her so fucking badly. I know. And y'all think, Bernie, she's really not. Y'all, unless you're progressive, you're default conservative. And I know everyone hates that because what about the liberals? What about them? The same ones getting on YouTube talking about and writing articles about how we have to engage in Charlie Kirk's way of being, debating people with different ideas. No. Unless you are a progressive, you're conservative. Because the progressives, again, they want things liberals don't want. Progressives want to dismantle capitalism and give people a chance of actually surviving in the world. If you're a liberal and you're still a capitalist, you might as well call yourself a conservative. Okay? I know you don't get it yet because you're still in that capitalistic big mind mindset. You still think making money makes you a capitalist when it doesn't. That's not what it is. So I know you think, but until you understand how bad capitalism is, like really is, you're not going to get it. And I get it because I used to be there too, girlies.
Mother of a 22-year-old and 19-year-old, all of this is really, really sad. It's really sad that Charlie Kirk was so violently killed. It's sad that 22-year-old.
Explain this to me, though, because chat says Democrats proved that when they denied Bernie. Then explain to me why Bernie came on YouTube and made that video about Charlie Kirk and continuing discourse between two sides. This man is a millionaire in a position of power and he's on his deathbed. Can he not stand up for something before he dies? And I say this as somebody who caucused for Bernie. Can Bernie please do one goddamn real thing before he dies? He's already rich. He's already in a position of power. He's already lived his life. Can he not end it going out and saying things with his full goddamn chest? No, of course not.
Year-old kid young man thought to do this, thought that was going to take this to his grave, that this was a way to resolve personal conflict.
Yeah, Bernie bought into the civility mindset. Listen to me when I say this. Be kind. Don't be nice. Be kind. Niceness got us where we are right now. I don't need you to be nice to me. I want you to be kind. Meaning I want you to come from a deep place of empathy. I want you to know that I am you and you are me. And we are all the same. And I really want you to be happy. I want you to be fed and clothed the same way I would want for my own family. The jokes Charlie Kirk was willing to make about Palestinian families and their lives tells me he does not see Palestinians as people like him. He thinks his kids, their lives matter more than Palestinian lives. None of my kids matter more than your kids. All of our kids cry the same. Our kids weep the same. And they're waiting for the adults to do something about it. And we're not doing it. And so I say to you, if you are progressive, then you will value conservative lives, not because they are conservative, but because they're people. If you are really progressive, you will see the beauty in everybody's children. And you will mourn for those children who are being raised by these people who will convince them to be hateful. And you will be sad for those kids. But you will recognize that those kids still deserve to be educated and loved and fed and universal health care and all of the good things. Okay? If you're going to die, at least die a good person. Because it's going to come for us girlies no matter if you try to postpone it or not. So die a good person. But I know right now in a stage where I get it, you're probably afraid to die. So you're afraid to look weak. And you're afraid that if you cry or care about conservative children, it will look like a form of weakness that conservatives will get you for. And they probably will, by the way. While you mourn for their kids, they will pounce. And they will not shed a tear for your kids. And I still say better to die a good person than somebody who would ever grow so cold-hearted that you would mock the lives of children being killed anywhere on this planet.
that you have about somebody's words. And I wish to live in a society where we can have fruitful, honest conversations about how we can deal with gun violence and political disagreements, because this is not the way, but the way.
Then if she's serious about having real conversations, she should stop giving politicians nicknames and call them by their real names. Because she's too old to be making up funny nicknames for people. When I say I'm preparing to be 40 and I want to be the adult in the room, when are we going to stop with the name calling? I want to see it. I want to see it in everything you do to the last breath you take. I want to see it. See, I'm 36. I'm still allowed to be a little bit of a fool. But when I hit 40, you best believe I'm not about to come on stream calling people funny little names. It's funny when we're kids. It's funny if you're a comedian. But if you want to have a serious conversation about helping people, then it's got to show up in everything you do, especially when you're clocked in. Especially when you're clocked in. And I like these ladies, okay? But again, when we have these conversations, we're not very serious about actually getting to know people. Because we still don't know why Trump does what he does, because we're not inside of his head. But man, wouldn't that be so interesting to know? Chet says, would you say the same to Hassan? You must be new to my audience. That's why I don't watch Hassan. I don't watch Hassan because he engages in gamer language. You're new to my audience, welcome. I literally do not watch Hassan Piker, except on occasion for work, because of his lack of maturity. Yeah, I need to get away from these streamer bubbles because they encourage you to talk just like them. And I'm not there yet. I'm still years away from being 40. But when I get there, you best believe I'm not about to be 40 years old on stream acting like a kid. Okay?
They're going to spin at you guys is going to be for their benefit. They are exploiting the right wing, the president, and all the people surrounding him are exploiting Charlie Kirk's death to erode your civil liberties. All right, we'll keep locked into this. If anything else.
Okay, so that's the end of that. But let me take you through this because I think it's interesting. His volume is a little low, guys, so turn it up on your phone when I play this TikTok.
So am I the only one who feels like there's a bigger issue that nobody's even talking about? The fact that every single time it's a man. Every time. It's a man. It's a guy. It's a teenage boy. Every time. And nobody's talking about it. And I don't understand why we're not addressing the fact that men are killing everybody. Like, if every other week there was a story about a woman going in and shooting up a bunch of kids at a school, and a woman who was being a sniper and taking somebody out, and a woman went into a church and shot up a whole bunch of people, I can guarantee you people would be having a lot of conversations about all the things that are wrong with women. But guys, we're not like, we're letting Roblox and Call of Duty and, you know, Grand Theft Auto raise our boys. We're letting online personalities who are about getting clicks and crap teach people how to be men, and it's just nonsense. And real men need to step up and realize we're not getting it done, man, and it's not a left thing and it's not a right thing, it's a man thing. There's so much pain, so much sadness, so much hurt that is being passed down and carried through the days of their lives that men are not talking about. I don't know if we need to stop, you know, all fantasy and all betting and golf and frickin' sports for a month and just give guys a minute to get their crap together, but it's about time, like, we do something, because just continuing to pass on the shame or the anger, the frustration, the sadness of whatever is going on in life that is continuing to perpetuate men's ability and willingness to kill other people and not do anything about it is just, that time has come and gone. And we as a community, as men in particular, need to stop just saying it's something. That it's us. And that means we all collectively need to do better. We'd ask the same thing if it was some other group.
Okay. And so that's the part of it that I think is missing, of course, from the conversation, because it's really difficult to have that conversation because men right now, especially in America, have been convinced that they're victims of a system that is somehow being controlled by feminism. Once again, that is like propaganda. Okay. And yes, propaganda can be a neutral term as just meaning like a way of thinking or a belief system to be pushed out. But the negative propaganda is an issue, right? So I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that, especially since this is literally coming out across the globe. People saying, I am Charlie Kirk, right? Look at this. South Korea. Whoa, that's really loud. We are Charlie Kirk out of South Korea. Now, you might say to yourself, but how does this differ from, when people were saying like, I'm George Floyd or I'm Trayvon Martin or I am Mike Brown or I am whoever? The difference is they were killed unjustly and in a situation in which people in power murdered them. People or people who were entitled killed them. The difference here is not, well, hold on, let me rephrase that because that might be confusing. Okay. Mike Brown and George Floyd were killed by police. That's important. Trayvon Martin was killed by somebody who felt emboldened by conservative rhetoric. Charlie Kirk was killed by an entitled man, right? And that is the same there. Okay, so all of them were killed by entitled men. So yes, okay, we're on the same page. The difference about South Korea saying I am Charlie Kirk is not, okay, it's not actually that much different because I got to bring out my paint. I'm sorry. I can't explain this with just my brain. Okay. So I am Charlie Kirk. I am George Floyd. Okay. Charlie Kirk, George Floyd. Now, okay. This is going to sound confusing to people who don't get it, but I think you're going to get it. Okay. Charlie Kirk is the system masquerading as liberation. Okay. George Floyd was killed by the system. And so people argued for liberation. Okay? So Charlie Kirk is the system masquerading as liberation. George Floyd was killed by the system, so people fought for liberation. Yes? Okay. So when South Korea is like, oh, I am Charlie Kirk, are you saying you are the system masking as liberation? Because that's what it feels like. It feels like white men want to be liberated from a system they refuse to dismantle. So then we're like, wait, so you're also upset at the system? They're like, yeah, the liberal feminist system. And we're like, what? And so then it gets confusing, right? So then there's this idea of like, George Floyd didn't have to be a good person for us to recognize that the system was fucked up. Charlie Kirk doesn't have to be a good person for us to recognize that shooting and killing him was fucked up. But the why of why it happened cannot be understood unless we deconstruct that ultimately men feel entitled and emboldened to killing people because one, they know men will always protect them. And two, it's the way that they're raised under patriarchy. And three, how many conservative women think men are so attractive because they're protectors? Protectors against who? Men fantasize, right, about this idea of being protectors, but you probably will almost never get a chance to do it. And when you're given a chance to do it, you don't even choose to do it. Who are you protecting from George Floyd? Who are you protecting from Mike Brown? Who are you protecting from Trayvon Martin? Who are you, even killing Charlie Kirk? Who is that protecting? Like, who are you protecting by killing Charlie Kirk? How does that help anybody? Right? Now look at this thing that I found under the I am Charlie Kirk hashtag. This is a health insurance company. Okay. America First Healthcare. Now America First is exactly what Charlie Kirk stood for. America First, right? It's a white supremacist slogan and dog whistle. I go on this TikTok and this TikTok is so weird. Okay. They have like memes about healthcare or Kabbalah and healthcare. And then they have this video. It's really low audio, so you're not going to hear it. I am Charlie Kirk. I am Charlie Kirk. First of all, I wonder if everybody is forced to do this. Do they even have a choice?
I'm Charlie Kirk. I am Charlie Kirk.
Like, were they even allowed to not do this? But America First, if they work for a place called America First, then they literally are brown and white people together advocating for something that ultimately is anti-them. So it's like a little confusing. Now, Chet said it looks like AI. I thought it was AI too. But then I go to other videos of theirs, and this one is crazy. This one's the craziest. DeSantis makes Florida first state to end all vaccine mandates. And this is a healthcare business. So a healthcare business is excited that people aren't getting vaccinated to go to school. And then that just felt like very almost congratulatory. It feels like very like selfish. But then look at this video. Look at this video. This guy's not a white guy. Is this a Hispanic guy?
This is the story of Charlie Kirk, his passion, his love for America.
Is this a white man? I mean, if it is a white man, who is this man?
And he was asked, when you die, what do you want to be remembered for?
I mean, if I die, everything just goes away. How would you, if you could be associated with one thing, how would you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith.
I want to be remembered for my courage in speaking my faith. He was a patriot. He was a lover of God. He was a lover of this nation. He loved his wife, loved his children. What an example he was, to us as Americans and to us as patriots. And this is what America First Healthcare is all about. This is why you guys are part of this organization.
Is this Braveheart music in the background?
Very rare to find an organization that upholds the values of this nation, and these values are rooted and grounded in Scripture. And this is why we have these monthly chapels, just to remind us that it's not only emotional, it's not only physical, it's not only educational, mental, but also the spiritual side of us, which is rooted in Scripture. And this is where our nation is found. This is
so, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why don't you just advocate for the government to provide health care for all its citizens, and we'd all pay a very small fee into that system, like I do here in Croatia? I pay €80 a month to have health care, and it's great. I've gone to the doctor multiple times with no bills. Why don't you do that? We have enough people in America. Why don't we make that a reality? Why is it $400 to $800 a month? Why would you start a business for health care? And what's funny is my parents were like, oh, you should join this like healthcare system. Dave Ramsey's always talking about stuff like this, where it's Christian socialized medicine, where they all pay into a group. And then when you have a bill, the group helps pay it. And it's like not as much money, but you have to vow to be a Christian. They only have it for Christians. What? What? Okay, a little humor.
What happened to Charlie was horrible.
I agree.
He got shot for having an opinion. That's horrible.
I know, political violence is never the answer.
They shot him for having an opinion.
They?
And he welcomed them to debate him, and he showed so much grace to everybody. He was just so kind to everybody. He cared about everybody. He is a great man.
Okay. No.
We are all Charlie. We're Charlie.
I don't agree with that.
What?
I don't think he was a good person. We are not Charlie. I'm not Charlie.
How can you say that?
I literally could show you some of the things he said.
You should be fired! Fired from your job! Fired from your employer! You should be arrested! This is war!
For an opinion?
Yes! What happened to Charlie was horrible.
That's exactly what's happening right now. Okay? So we need to have a conversation about that. The dilemma is that there's not really a conversation to be had. Because the hardest thing to do, the only thing we can do to actually make the world a better place is to learn to be empathetic and loving. And when Charlie Kirk is quoted as saying, I don't like empathy, I like sympathy, that's the problem. Guys, sympathy is really, really great, but it's a lacking of deep understanding of what it means to be a person. I have a brother, really well-meaning, very sympathetic, lacking on the empathy. So he's lacking in something, right? He's a very good person, but his lack of empathy makes him a less good person. And you always want to be a more good person. And empathy allows that. That's what love is. Love is empathy. That's why Bell Hooks thinks like love cannot exist where abuse does. Because if you have empathy, which is love in so many ways, then how do you on purpose torture and hurt people that you love? And I think if you come from a family where you're the ostracized kid and you're really trying to be empathetic and loving to your family, and I know this is a gay kid growing up, so many gay kids have this problem where we really love our family and we try so hard to understand them and to be kind to them, and we're just waiting for one day for them to see how good we are so they can treat us with the same amount of love, the same amount of empathy, and they can't do it. They can't do it because their God comes first. It's like a realization that that same God that we work so hard to study and understand, who said turn the other cheek, yeah, they don't know how to do that because they have a sympathy but not an empathy. I remember somebody in the family, not my family, but in our family, extended family, he died and he was gay. And my mom said to me, you know, I prayed for him. I love gay people so much I offered mass for him. And I said, I'm sad that he killed himself instead of having a family he could come home to. And she said, well, that's what happens, you know, when you give yourself over to like the devil, you lose yourself and you don't feel loved. And I said, well, I think he would have felt more loved if he had a family to come home to. My parents think that I didn't kill myself because they loved me. I stopped wanting to die because I went to therapy and I learned to love myself regardless of how the world felt about me. And that's what conservative parents aren't getting. Your gay kids chose to stay alive another day because they learned to love themselves even if you couldn't. But that's not to say that I don't recognize that my parents love me. It's just they love me through sympathy and not through empathy. And at the end of the day, if you love me through sympathy, though I appreciate it, doesn't really mean that much. Because at the end of the day, you love predators in the family in the same exact way. Again, doesn't mean that much. If the gay kid and the predator comes to the dinner table and you consider them the same, it doesn't mean that much. Okay? And that's what I'm trying to get people to understand. This is not to say because we see how our family is limited that we wish bad on them. If anything, I wish so much good on my family. And you should too. You should wish the best on everybody, even people who have harmed you, but not at the expense of yourself. And you might not be in the healing position to do this. So I will just remind you that when you get there, you will wish only joy for the same family that abandoned you when you needed them the most. And that is how I know you will be healed. When you can genuinely wish the best for the people who've hurt you the most, you will know joy in ways I cannot even explain it to you. And you will still be allowed to mourn. You can still cry about it. You can still feel sad about it. But you will no longer feel hateful about it. You will no longer feel despair. You will no longer want to take your own life because the world is lacking in empathy. You will no longer want to self-harm because the world around you is so ugly. And as a former self-harmer, as a former girly who has tried to kill herself, the day I stopped wanting to die was the day that I accepted that I was worthy of love because I had a good relationship with myself and I knew that I had good intentions and I was doing my best. It always comes down to our relationship with ourselves. If Tyler Robinson had a good relationship with himself, he never would have killed Charlie Kirk. If Charlie Kirk had a good relationship with himself, he never would have dedicated his limited time on earth to spreading so much hate and bigotry. But this is difficult. And so I will end stream with this last message. Once again, we opened up this way. We're going to close this way with James Baldwin, talking about how love has never been a popular movement because it is so difficult to love.
Love has never been a popular movement, and no one's ever wanted really to be free. The world is held together, really it is held together, by the love and the passion of very few people. Otherwise, of course, you can despair. Walk down the street of any city, any afternoon, and look around you. What you got to remember is what you're looking at is also you. Everyone you're looking at is also you. You could be that person. You could be that monster. You could be that cop. And you're to decide in yourself not to be.
Okay. I will link this in chat since you're asking. And I'll answer one last question. Chat says, you don't have to forgive people in order to be a good person though. Just don't let it consume you. No, you do need to forgive people to be a good person. I'm sorry. It's very hard to be a good person. You do have to forgive people. You do. And that's why it's hard to be a good person. Because it will eat you up if you don't. But forgiveness is about you. It's not about them. You forgiving other people is saying, I will no longer carry the burden of the pain you inflicted on me, It is not my burden to carry. I forgive you for being a human, because humans are going to human. And I will no longer carry the burden that was not my responsibility to carry in the first place. And my forgiving you has nothing to do with you forgiving yourself. It has nothing to do with you being responsible and actually holding yourself accountable. But you must forgive people so you can free yourself from the burden. It was never yours to carry in the first place. Forgive them, don't interact with them, move on, but free yourself from the burden of holding on to a lack of forgiveness, right? Forgiving people does not mean, oh, I forgive you, everything's good now between us. I forgive you from being who you are, but that doesn't mean we need to continue our life together. Just like accountability doesn't mean that person gets to go on living the life they lived. Accountability and forgiveness means we will now be different in our life. Guys, accountability and forgiveness have been twisted and turned by evil people who want to be able to say, well, forgive me for what I did and forgive me every time I do it again. Hold me accountable and then I'm going to do it again. No. Forgiveness and accountability must come with a change of heart and action, whether you are the person who are forgiving or you are the person who are holding accountable. Your life must be a reflection of the change and deep understanding of what these words mean. Sheza, no one is entitled to forgiveness from you. Nobody's entitled, but that's different. You forgiving someone who hurt you is not the same thing as the person who hurt you seeking forgiveness. Should you never talk to an abuser again, you must forgive them if you want to free yourself from the burden and heal. Should you be an abuser, you are not entitled to your victim accepting your forgiveness or giving you forgiveness. Okay? You as the abuser cannot demand from your victim that they forgive you. These two are not related. The abuser must hold themselves accountable and seek forgiveness in spirit, if not in actuality. The person abused must forgive their abuser without accepting the lack of accountability, right? These are two separate things that exist without these people ever needing to talk or interact. These two people never have to talk ever again for these things to be true because you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for yourself. This is why I say free yourself from the burden of hate, because you're the only person who will suffer because of it. And to be honest, you're technically not the only person. You will actually emit this into the world. It will come out in your life. It will come out in your life. Okay? But take your time, because you can't make it happen overnight. So take your time, but do it now. But take your time, but do it now. It will take time. Give yourself the time. Okay? All right, girls, that's it. We did it. I'll see you again tomorrow. Be good to yourselves. Even if nobody else will do it. Be good to yourself. Don't be good to yourself because you're waiting for the world to be good to you. Don't wait for someone else to love you, to love yourself. Because that's exactly what's wrong with the world right now. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.